Welcome in, Bears fans, to another episode of It's the Lions My Podcast, which is simulcasting on Bears Country Productions. And of course, I've got the great Paulski from BearskiFilm. How you doing, Paul?
Good, man. I'm also streaming this to my channel as well, so it should be on BearskiFilm YouTube channel as well. And yeah, man, I'm having a
Fantastic.
really good night. Thanks for inviting me. I would love talking football all the time, so I'm excited.
Yeah, same here. The last time we did something together, I know the viewers were really happy to see it, and I was hoping that we'd be able to do more, and here we are. So this is fantastic. Obviously, the show hopefully is going to be centered around some Bears Vikings discussion. Obviously, the Bears are going to be playing them tomorrow at noon in about 14 hours, give or take. Um, Initially, what are your feelings going into this game? Do we have a fighting chance, or what do you think, Paul?
My initial feelings are thank God it's a noon game, so we could just get
Yeah,
it over with, and I could
yeah,
enjoy the rest of my Sunday. Um, man, it's rough because it's football. It's any given Sunday, right? So you, this team's not laying down for anybody. It's definitely not a cakewalk by any means. So we have the chance of getting lucky and being able to pull off a win here and there. And that's what it would have to take, though, because I truly feel for us to be able to come out with a victory here, it would take the Vikings to implode. You would need a multi interception game from Sam Darnold. Like they would need to lose it more than I think we would need to win it. So I don't know. That's just my initial thought on it. They're mean, dude. This was supposed to be, preseason prediction wise, this was supposed to be the bottom feeder in this division. They were supposed to be the team that was last in this division. Their draft was very short. I believe they only took four guys. One of them passed away in the
they did.
offseason.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunate circumstance for sure.
Unfortunate. The other one got hurt for the season. So what? Did they add two players from the draft this year? So the Vikings were not supposed to be anything special, and I think you see the impact of their coaching staff really shine this year. And yeah, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, these guys are no joke. And even when it comes to the defensive side with Brian Flores, like they don't have these big names on their defensive line or anywhere, and yet they're getting the job done. They're getting pressure. It's a lot due to the scheme that he's calling. So, yeah, they're a well-oiled machine at the fundamental stage, and that takes teams a long way. So,
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up Brian Flores. We are not going to do a deep dive. We're going to do a little dive into like the small end of the pool here. I'm going to show you a formation, or it's one formation, but there's multiple things on defense that the Vikings can do that essentially going to attribute to being a key to the game for the Bears. We will get to that. Let me just quickly run down the injury report, and then I'll show you the rosters, what we're dealing with. So Ryan Bates, Elijah Hicks have both officially been ruled out. You guys are watching this currently on Saturday, the night before the game. Mr. Adrian Colbert, he has been re-signed to the practice squad and has been elevated to the active roster for tomorrow. So he will be the backup. And earlier this week, I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday, Mr. Eberflus said that um, Jonathan Biles, aka Jonathan Owens, he will be starting in place of the injured Elijah Hicks next to their other great safety, Kevin Byard. Keenan Allen being questionable is something we can get to in a bit. Karan questionable, rather worthless in my opinion, because we're going to, of course, see Braxton Jones. And then DeAndre Swift, who has been trending towards playing. I think he will play, but he does have an injury designation nonetheless. So, roster-wise, these are the snap percentages. If we want to reference these, Paulie, just yell at me. I'll pull them up for you. The guys who are watching this, I believe, have seen this already. But I don't know if you know the ins and outs exactly of this Vikings roster. So their offensive line is pretty good on paper. Dalton Reisner was a player that they signed, I believe, from the Broncos. He had been dealing with some injuries, and now he's back. Obviously, their left tackle is Cam Robinson, who they would much prefer to have the injured player, his name is escaping me right now. But they were able to acquire a good talent at left tackle to fill in. Pennies on the dollar trade. Really, really frustrating stuff. Um, we'll be seeing Justin Jefferson on every single play, essentially. And then Jordan Addison will be their kind of change of pace, deep threat. And then they've got a rotation, essentially, at slot receiver and tight end.
and
Um,
Carl,
mhm.
one thing that's important for any offensive line in this league, whether you have the best one or a mid-tier one or whatever, if these guys are playing 100% of the snaps like they are, continuity there is so important. These guys don't get a lot of praise and a lot of focus or anything like that. If you could sit, yeah, there you go. Ryan Bates,
What
ten
what I'm
percent.
trying to what I was going to point out before you keep going, and I want you to keep going. These snap percentages next to the players' names are specific to the game that they previously played. So against the Titans. As far as the season, I don't have that in front of me. I would have to wager that since Dalton Reisner and Cam Robinson have joined the Vikings, whether it be via trade or via becoming healthy, they probably have played 100% of the snaps the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. So have any of our linemen played 100% of the snaps in? That's what I'm saying. Like, you need these pieces to be cornerstone pieces, and you need at least some type of, something to lean on here. And a lot of our guys, maybe they played 100% last week, but Ryan Bates, Matt Pryor, Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones, all those guys have missed some time. So the continuity there is very important.
One of the big problems for the Chicago Bears, too, I don't have something concrete in front of me to show you, but especially if you were to take the logic that I have, which is that when they traded for Ryan Bates, they intended for him to be the starting center, and Coleman Shelton won the job kind of by de facto. Across the entire offensive line, the Bears have either been at their second or third choice for the majority of these last few games during this losing streak. You've guys had guys like Matt Pryor who have filled in, I believe, at right guard, right tackle, and potentially left guard as well, just all this year. So absolutely, your point stands regarding continuity for the Bears' offensive line. There is none.
Isn't Tevin Jenkins playing?
Tevin Jenkins, yes. So these are again the snap counts that you see versus the Packers. And as per the injury report, Tevin Jenkins is a full go, no designation. He will be starting at left guard. Will he complete the game at left guard? My money says no. But we will have to see, unfortunately. If you want to take a look at their defense real quick, these snap percentages rather are accurate. And this is something I wanted to point out to PJ on the Thursday show. Their defensive line, again, 4 players active on the defensive line. That's it. And none of them played more than 50% of the snaps. You can see Cashman at 100%, and they get really long in the tooth with their outside linebackers. And Joshua Metellus, that's not a highlight. That's just to indicate that he played for the great University of Michigan. Go Blue. We got a nice win today. But he's essentially the queen, if you want to consider this a chess game. He's their do-it-all guy. So let me kind of drive home that point that you had regarding the wonderful coaching that the Vikings have, specifically
real quick.
Reference to,
you're hilarious, and I love your bias for Michigan football, because I was like, why is that highlighted? I was wondering about that. So
yeah, I'm sorry. You can see in the legend in the bottom left kind of where my scribbling is coming from. But yeah, Joshua Metellus, the only player in this game to have played for the University of Michigan. So again, let me drive home this point that you had regarding Mr. Brian Flores and how good their coaching is. This is a formation that I'm going to show you some plays for, okay? Take a look at this 6-man front. There isn't a one defensive lineman on the field right now. That is a legitimate play. This is the first third down of the game from the Vikings. You've got Andrew Van Ginkel lining up over the center. This is some mad scientist stuff.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Giants back in the day, where they would put in those 4 speed rushers, but even those guys were still all defensive ends, but they would still take 2 defensive ends and line them up at the defensive tackle position. And
yeah, that
just
was the
speed
NASCAR
rush
package with what?
NASCAR.
Strahan,
Yep.
OCU Manura, Tuck. Yep. That was literally a defensive line that beat the undefeated New England Patriots.
100%. Yep.
Real quick in chat, I see Chris Foster, The Scrolls, Infarius, Atmos. How's it going, gentlemen? Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate the heck out of it. So with this defensive front, some things that you'll see. Let me show you first how the plays ran from kind of the TV view. You'll see with them all on the line, they actually back out of it. Josh Metellus is the one at the top. He's kind of in that sitting down in zone. And then, Paulie, you had pointed out that the player who actually makes the tackle, he starts, I believe, on the other side of the field, you said?
No, he starts
it was
on the defensive line.
It's 91.
Like the guy, 91 that's coming in from the side right there. Yep, he's lined
91
up.
is Pat Jones. He's essentially lined over 85 on this screenshot here. And as you said, yeah, he's going to back out of it. Oh, no. Whatever the case is, your
Yeah, the guy
point
that was lined up
stands.
pretty much at the left defensive tackle position.
Yeah, and you'll see here. This will give us an even better view of the actual play. So it's Cashman. Now, let me show you one more time. Look at Andrew Van Ginkel. He's the player over the center, okay? Watch what he does. He allows the muck to come through, and he actually stunts over. So they only bring 4, and they still get a hit on the quarterback. So that's, for me, going to be one of the keys to the games that we're going to have tomorrow. We have a young quarterback with an offensive line that doesn't have a lot of continuity. Can we figure this out? Can we identify if Joshua Metellus is going to knife through for a blitz like Troy Polamalu, or is he going to drop into coverage? Even if it's just 4, are you going to be able to know who's coming and adjust to it and not, have 5 guys blocking 3 with a 4th just naked, essentially? That's going to be a big key to the game, in my opinion. Is there anything, Paulie, that you're specifically looking out for the game tomorrow?
Yeah, I would love to see how Caleb handles that pressure because it's clearly going to be there. It is confusing. This is one of the better defenses. And yeah, when you're lining up 6 and still just rushing 4, that's when you got to be able to read and react and process. And, Karl, I just want to kind of add this into a little bit off topic. I know you're a little bit younger than me, just a little bit, not too much, but I stopped playing Madden altogether, maybe years ago now, because I was just sick of getting the same product over and over year after year. One of my favorite games was NFL 2K5. And in 2K5, when it came to calling a defensive play, you would pick the secondary and the coverage, and then you would pick what the line does, right? So because the line doesn't just always rush in or rush to the left or rush to the right like man has it. No, pick a stunt, pick a twist, pick whatever you want. And, those things happen in real life. Like you could see, like you mentioned, the guy that lined up over the center. That was a great play by him. And he still gets through and gets pressure. And those type of things are confusing. And that's what our offensive line struggles with extremely. I mean, just by putting highlights together, I can't tell you how many times I've seen 3 guys blocking 1 when you should have been in position to pick up a rusher that's trying to fool you because he's coming around from the other side or whatever and getting around you and getting right to the quarterback. So this is going to be a huge, huge test for our offensive linemen, for Thomas Brown now as well, calling these plays and calling protections and everything like that, and for Caleb Williams to be able to read the pressure and react to it properly. So, yeah, it's a very, very tough matchup for the Bears.
And that said, too, right, you are going to have to play the mind game where you have to decipher what's going on. The Vikings also don't really hide too much in the sense that they are probably the defense most frequent in the NFL to both have cover 0, which means you have no zone over the top. You're locked up man-to-man, and the rest is just blitz. That's rather a 6-man, 7-man, God forbid, an 8-man blitz. And they also probably lead the NFL in frequency in dropping out of 0, where you have only the 3-4 players rushing, like we just saw. So it is going to be a big test. I'm happy that we're seeing this defense now with Thomas Brown at the helm, because I don't know about you, Paulie, I have heard requests for Thomas Brown to be the head coach, interim head coach of the Chicago Bears, more than anything. It's bewildering to me, and I want to hear your thoughts on if you think he's, I think we're in lockstep. A lot of Bears fans are. Eberflus is not going to be retained going into next year, and if he is, it's going to be a big disappointment. But I don't know if it's worth it now to say, okay, Thomas Brown, you not only need to be the play caller, but you also need to be our head coach. What are your thoughts on that?
Real quick, just to finish up the thoughts on the offensive line and the schematics of it, I believe the Washington game, 63% of the time they played man and 49% of the time they blitzed. And that's just such a cocky way to play.
Which defense? The Redskins?
The Redskins or Commanders, Redskins, whatever. That's
yeah,
just
sorry.
such a cocky
I don't
way.
mean to offend
No, it's fine.
Your viewers.
Oh, yeah, I'm very offended. No, it's just such a cocky way to play. Such a cocky way to scheme it up, and it's obvious what you're going to do and you're just doing it because it works. I mean, the blueprint was laid out in week 2 against Houston, where this is where this team struggles. It's interior pressure. And man, if you could just jam these wide receivers, they're not getting much separation. You're going to have enough time to get in there and pressure the rookie quarterback. That's not very comfortable right now. That he will scamper out, and now you know what I mean. You have anything can happen at that point, right? So it's interesting because their strengths seem to match up against our weaknesses very, very well. So that's why I said this is going to be a tough matchup. But moving on to Thomas Brown and all the talk about him and everything like that. Listen, the guy was there for 4 days and he didn't even change the scheme because you can't change the scheme. You're in the middle of the season. You're not about to sit there and teach these guys something new and do something different. You're just going to take the same plays you've been doing and just call them differently or just be a lot more conservative with the play calling, right? So that seemed to do a lot, just focusing on the little things and the little details, keeping things simple so we just at least build a foundation and do something right. We're not getting offensive holding flags or false start flags, like cut all that stuff out. And in 4 days, he has done enough to sit there and stir up all this talk. I think that only goes to show you truly how bad Shane Waldron was and how bad Matt Eberflus is. If this guy that's been here in this position for 4 days is getting talked about, hey, maybe we should replace our head coach with this guy, it just lets you know that our head coach is no good. Replace him with any guy that just sounds halfway competent. And that's what you got. So listen, Thomas Brown said the right things. I thought the result was positive. I think step one, hit it out of the park. There's a ton that goes into calling an offense, right? So you really need consistency and time and a lot more experience to actually make a correct judgment call on him, actually have a concrete opinion on what he is. I mean, if he was so good, he'd be an offensive coordinator somewhere else already, right?
Yeah.
So I get these guys need to build their resume up over time and this and that, and it's gone positive for him, and I wish nothing but the best for him. But I'm so down on Matt Eberflus that I would be willing to probably pull that cord and let this guy take over at this point. I mean, because I just know Eberflus is not it. So at this point, sure, give anybody else a try.
Yeah. So let me just explain my thoughts there. If you think that Thomas Brown is good enough to be the head coach, that is probably something that you also have to then keep Shane Waldron. Because I don't know how you can thrust in the original passing game coordinator. Now you're not only going to call our plays, which it seems like he prefers to call the plays from up on the booth. Now you're also our head coach. So what, do we have to have like an auxiliary head coach where there's like a puppet, a flesh puppet on the sideline where he's talking to? He's like, hey, you got to call timeout, all these things. That seems like just a huge recipe for disaster. I think
and
something
Karl,
that,
real quick, if there was anybody who's the most qualified to take over as an interim head coach, it would be Eric Washington.
I think that Eric Washington, if you had to do that, would be just fine. But then the problem is the exact same thing I just explained, except on the defensive end. Your person who's going to be calling your defensive plays as essentially an interim defensive coordinator is also going to be the interim head coach.
But
it just doesn't make sense to me.
Isn't Eberflus calling the plays right now on defense?
Right, but he's the head coach. He should be able to handle this. He's paid and has years of experience at this point to be that. And unfortunately, he was a victim of circumstance for whatever happened with I can't think of the original
Alan
defensive
Williams.
Coordinator. Thank you. I don't
And
want to
you know
speculate on what happened.
That's such a snowball effect because if that didn't happen, I think you probably fire Luke Getsy halfway through the year. But you're so handcuffed because you can't get rid of both your coordinators you can't do it, right? So you're kind of handcuffed in keeping Luke Getsy through the rest of the year because of that. So
yeah, it's just that I haven't seen someone tell me, hey, Thomas Brown's offense was so transformative. We're winning football games. We just lost a football game, guys. So for you to tell me that just because Thomas Brown has charisma and speaks well with the media, which, oh my God, he does, right? He's very good at that. If he's going to end up being the head coach somewhere next year, God bless him. But to put all of this on his plate, I don't want to belittle him and say that he can't handle it. Maybe he can. Would he be an upgrade to Matt Eberflus in a vacuum? Probably, but I just don't think that would be fair. I think that the Bears keeping Matt Eberflus up to this point in time is not wrong. It's not good, and we know he won't be back next year. And if he is, there's going to be some problems. But
So
as things stand right now, I think I'm okay with it.
so the loss in itself, like, yes, from a big picture standpoint, we still lost, right? But let's like zoom in a little bit and get a little bit more detailed. From an offensive standpoint, you did I was really put back by the 2 sacks right away. Sacked, sacked. Now you're in 3rd and 19. And I'm just like, man, all you had to do was take this ball down the field and get in position to just kick for 3 points and win this thing. And you get sacked twice up front. Credit to Caleb. He makes a play, gets into 4th down, makes another play on 4th down, and then makes another play after that to Rome and puts this team in a position. Now, I'm curious whether that decision to run that clock down with 34 seconds to go was Matt Eberflus stepping in and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, or whether that was Thomas Brown. Because if it was Thomas Brown, then no, that's dumb. You should have tried. Listen, you can't play scared in this league. You can't be like, oh, well, we might get sacked. Oh, well, we might do this. No, you got to say, I believe in my guys to get me 3 more yards in this moment. And you have to. And so that's where, like, I know you mentioned it when you were on with David on the general NFL league report show we have going on weekly now. You got it, and it is my quote. It's not mine. It's actually Yurko from ESPN 1000, but I totally believe in it. You got to play checkers before you play chess. And if you play checkers well, then yeah, give it to the running back and get 2-3 more yards. You should be able to do that no problem. It's a simple thing. And so you can't play scared in that situation. Like I said, I truly feel that was probably a Matt Eberflus decision because it kind of,
I agree, Matt
yeah,
Eberflus.
it kind of just goes with the history of what he's done over and over. And I could go back to year one where Justin Fields had the ball at right before half. And I think there was like 40, 50 seconds before half, and they just go out there and kneel it. It's like you're not even going to try. And yeah, it's been the MO for this guy since his first year here. So, however, I can't blame Thomas Brown for the loss because the offense didn't lose it, right? Like, although they didn't do enough during the game, sure, they could have performed at other times during the game. At the very end, when it came to clutch time, they did get it done and they did put the team in a position to win, minus those last 34 seconds, right? However, the kick being blocked and whatever, that's not on Thomas Brown at all. So, and I hear you, dude. Like, being a head coach comes with a ton of responsibility all around, and it is a hard job. And yeah, like for this guy to shoot up from what some coach to offensive coordinator to head coach, it just seems so unrealistic. But like I said, it just speaks volumes to how bad Matt Eberflus is. Just because this guy sounds like a decent head coach, we're willing to jump ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Not trying to discredit anything that Thomas Brown has done. I'd actually want to take a step or a chance right now to praise him because I feel, or at least my favorite coach in the NFL and what I believe is the best coach in the NFL is Sean McVay. Sean McVay is essentially the guy, the man who gave Thomas Brown his chance. And what ended up happening is Thomas Brown went to Carolina. Now, Carolina, total dumpster fire. He took over for play calling duties for 3 games. They weren't doing well. They went 0-3 in those games, and then it went back to Frank Reich. Frank Reich did what he did until he got fired, and after he got fired, then Thomas Brown finished the year. So I think in total he called between like 10 and 12 games last year. Again, not something that the Panthers said we have to keep this guy. He was interviewed actually by the Bears to be their offensive coordinator. They chose Shane Waldron, but they were still somehow able to bring in Thomas Brown as the passing game coordinator. That's probably why they were so willing to get rid of Shane Waldron, because they felt they had a competent replacement, which is what we're seeing. But again, just to crown him after 1 game with very little else, it wasn't like this iconic game where the offense was transformative and it lit the world on fire. All I'm asking is to see continuous improvement, and we'll have a discussion about Thomas Brown maybe towards the end of the year, because right now I think it's just a bit premature. One thing, I'll let you go back, Paulie, but if you look at the snap counts for the players in Thomas Brown's first game that he called, look at your tight ends. Not only is Cole Kmet on the field 97% of the time, Mercedes Lewis actually got more snaps than Gerald Everett, which is fantastic. And I do want to run this by you. I feel like they like to try and use Gerald Everett as anything but a tight end, but it's always these short, kind of quick out little routes. And if I'm being honest, I'm such a big proponent or a big fan of Rome Odunze being treated as the number one wide receiver in this playbook. Why can't they just have Keenan Allen play that role for Gerald Everett? Obviously, Keenan Allen should be on the field, and he is on the field a lot more than Gerald Everett, but allow him to kind of be more of your within 5 yards kind of quick out guy and, someone you can trust, because what they're doing with him right now, it's just clearly not working.
I'm not going to say that they're using Keenan Allen correctly, but I also don't agree that that would be the way to use him correctly. So the reason why you see Mercedes Lewis having more of a percentage of snap counts over Gerald Everett is because Mercedes Lewis blocks. He's not
and
a
commits
he's not,
false start penalties like no one else, but you
I
are correct.
get
That's
it,
what he
but
is. He's an offensive
that's what he's
lineman.
there for to do, right? Whereas Gerald Everett is more of a pass catcher tight end, and Kokomet can do both, jack of all trades, right? So with the way this offensive line is looking, you need these guys to block, right? That's why you just need Mercedes Lewis out there, and Keenan Allen's not about to go and fill that role and block at his age and commit to it and do it right.
I will say, I did see on like a bubble screen to DJ Moore, Keenan Allen was trying and succeeding as far as blocking was concerned. So I love to see the effort and downright the quality. It was very, very good in my opinion. So,
But he was probably blocking a corner or a safety,
yeah, exactly.
not
Yeah,
not a
absolutely.
linebacker or a defensive end.
Correct. Absolutely. So Gerald Everett, obviously more capable in that sense, you'd hope at least. All I'm saying is, if you have a play in the playbook that is designed to go to Gerald Everett, rip it up, light it on fire, or replace Gerald Everett's name with Keenan Allen. Have the ball go to Keenan Allen in that sense, and let's start treating Rome Odunze like your wide receiver number one, because when it mattered most, 4th and 3, even 3rd and 17, that's the thing. Like, a lot of us want to dog on the Bears taking him at 9, and I see both sides of the coin, both sides of the argument. But when Caleb Williams. When Caleb Williams is evading a sack after getting sacked 2 plays prior in a row, and he's in the scramble drill and looking for someone, it's Rome Odunze. They have this incredible connection that I'm so glad that we're going to be seeing for years to come. And then in 4th and 3 as well, he just lobs it up to him, back shoulder. He's able to go out and get it. So, don't want to call it a key to the game, but if the Bears are going to have success, maybe where they're catching the Vikings in a rotation, they've got 6 guys on the line of scrimmage, they're backing out of it last moment, all this stuff. Let's see if we can get Rome Odunze over the top, please. Because I think that if you're going to have to, win this game, I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring game if the Bears want to win it. So,
With that being said, I think the backlash you get from the fans that didn't want to draft Rome Odunze, because I was one of them, it's
Sure.
nothing against Rome Odunze.
Understood.
Like nothing. It's totally situational based off team needs. Like I would have just preferred a defensive end and a center over wide receiver number 3. And then that's the other thing is he is wide receiver number 3 currently. And if we do start treating him as wide receiver number 1, he's also faced against cornerback number 1. And so in that situation, I think, listen, it's great that he's made big plays and everything like that. And I know he's currently leading the wide receivers in yardage, which is messed up to me because I don't think that was the intention here. What you need out of your wide receiver number 1 is a lot of consistency. And that's what DJ Moore does bring to the table. Now, it hasn't panned out. I hear you. So I'm not like all for bashing the idea of putting Roman at number 1, but I just don't think that it would necessarily go the way you think it might go.
Yeah. So, your argument regarding treating Rome Odunze as the 1 means that he would get covered as the number 1. You still are running plays where you have all 3 players on the field at the same time, that being DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. So I'm not saying you obviously would probably have him run a more favorable route, but treat him number 1 wide receiver in the playbook, meaning he's the first read man. If you're going to have a collective percentage plays, whatever it is, let's say Caleb Williams throws the ball 20 times, I would like Roma Dunze to be the first read on like 8 to 10 of those throws. You know, essentially 50% of the time, let's look for Rome. Then let's sprinkle in the DJ Moore, the Keenan Allen, and everyone else. And obviously, if he is the first read, that doesn't mean he's going to get the ball. You should still be able to find a way to distribute the ball, get these guys all involved. But all my point regarding that is just that Roma Dunze, I think, has the most talent. At first, I thought you said he was number 3, as in being the number 3 wide receiver taken on the draft, which that is technically correct. But Roma Dunze in any draft prior in the past 5 years, in my opinion, he'd be far and away the first wide receiver taken. That's why he was drafted at 9, because it was a special circumstance. You had these great wide receivers, and Roma Dunze was a victim of circumstance, being someone drafted at 9 instead of being the first receiver taken.
So my rebuttal to that was, even during the offseason, I was saying, I don't care if Marvin Harrison Jr. falls to us. I want to trade back. It's nothing against the guy. It's nothing against the talent. It's nothing. It's everything against the position versus our needs. You know what I mean? Our needs. We have. I get trying to take the best player available, and I understand that mentality, and it has worked out for a lot of teams. However, if you have obvious holes, obvious flaws, those things get exploited. We do have obvious flaws. One of them is center. The other one's guard. And like I said, in week 2, Houston was able to draw up a blueprint for the rest of the league of how to pressure the Bears from the interior. Why? Because it's obvious. And so it's nothing against Rome. It's everything just about draft strategy when it comes to that point. And the other thing is, I know PJ said it in chat, looking at the body of work, DJ is number 1 wide receiver, and that's not even close. And he's 100% right. 100% right. This guy's done it year in, year out with multiple quarterbacks. PJ Walker was his quarterback, for Christ's sake, and he was still producing. And so I'm done. You can't be trying to try new things and be smarter than everybody else and this and that. This is all about getting to the basics and at least getting the basics to work. DJ Moore will work as your number 1 wide receiver. You know what I mean? You got to draw up the right plays, put them in position, and get this offensive line to block for this kid. Give him some time to make the reads. And if he has to go back to DJ Moore, like, you have way more comfort in the consistency of DJ Moore being at that position than you do with Rome. With Rome, it's an unknown. Can he do it? Can he not do it? He might not. However, you did draft this kid at 9 too. But usually, even with top 10 drafted wide receivers, you don't expect them to sit there and just take everything on their shoulders and drag the whole team in their first year. It takes 2-3 years.
That's the old idea, and you're not wrong, and I actually agree with you. But if you look at Malik Neighbors, he immediately stepped in, number 1 wide receiver for the Giants, getting the most volume. He's lighting the league on fire. He's had some games missed due to some various injuries, including a concussion, but it's not to say that these guys can't do it. I just want to highlight PJ's comment.
Who else is on the Giants, though?
No, you're absolutely right. The Giants dumpster fire. They literally just paid Daniel Jones to play safety on their practice squad before cutting him. He literally is no longer with the team. So
yeah, like if we had Roma Dunze, Tyler Scott, and DeAndre Carter, I'd say Roma Dunze is the number 1 wide receiver, right?
Let me quickly get to PJ's comment. It says, regardless of where he is drafted, production dictates who is number 1. That's how I look at it. And that's a very safe way, a very logical way to look at this, right? Roma Dunze leads the Chicago Bears currently in receiving yards. That's just a matter of fact. And Roma Dunze, no, I don't think Rome has missed a game. That said, whether you... again, I think you should treat Roma Dunze as the number 1 wide receiver. The defense maybe not is not going to do that because of what PJ's saying. DJ Moore is the proven player. He should be the guy who gets the number 1 coverage. But if the ball is designed to go to Roma Dunze, who maybe has got the 2nd or hopefully the 3rd best cornerback they have on him, that's a plus. Let me quickly get to chat because chat is absolutely popping off. Paulski, a lot of your people are in here as well, which is fantastic.
Hell yeah.
We've got Antmus, of course, Prometheus, Hector Zambrano, Scottish Bear, Minister Charles Johnson, as I've already said, go blue. We've got Bear Truth. Obviously, Mr. PJ has decided to pull up. Thank you very much. Scottish. And then I wanted to point out something that Scottish said too. Champy, Marvin Harrison, both those nerds. Probably not wrong. Oh, is he
No,
literally? Do you know Champy? He's from your channel. Is he
no
literally?
idea. Never seen him before. So
Oh, it says Go Cards, and it looks like that's an Arizona Cardinals
yeah,
logo. So,
good for him.
Champy, good for you. I'm thinking that the Cardinals maybe might win that division.
I think so
So,
too. They actually have a really good shot at it. So um,
well, maybe we could talk about that to end the stream. But Scottish had mentioned something with Tyler Scott. He was impressive in the preseason, of course, with blocking. He was actually whipping opponents with his blocking. That's something I may have to go back and look at because I don't remember that.
it's one of my biggest question marks so far. Where has Tyler Scott been? To me,
Look at the snap counts. He got a snap. I haven't seen it. That
it's
was his
it's
first offensive snap this year, I believe. By the way,
it's crazy to me. I believe Rome is 6'4". I think DJ Moore's 6'2". I think Keenan Allen's like 6'1", and you have the speedy 5'11" wide receiver. Like you would think that there is some room or some point in this offense where you could, dude. I've seen him go 5 wide and put a running back out, a wide receiver. Like you would think that there's
instead of Tyler Scott, you're saying
yes, you would think that at
asinine,
some point that there's an
asinine behavior.
opportunity to
Yup.
stretch the field to just get a speed guy out there, and you drafted this kid in the 4th round. You know what I mean? And for some reason, he seems to go AWOL. He's not around, period, at all whatsoever. And to me, that's kind of asinine. Like to not even give him any opportunities is kind of crazy, especially after the MO of this team, which is they tend to sit there and give these failures probably 30% more chances than they should get. When you look at Chase Claypool, like they held on to him for a little bit longer than they should have. Velus Jones, they held on to him for a little bit more than they should have. Nate Davis, they held on to him for a little bit more than they should have. But then you got a guy like Tyler Scott out there and you're not even going to give him a chance. It's just kind of weird. It makes no sense to me. I don't know. I can't make any rational thoughts about why.
So, if Thomas Brown is able to find a way to resurrect Tyler Scott, and next year we have essentially an in-form DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Tyler Scott, that could be pretty special. I'm not going to speculate on that because we haven't seen a lot of Tyler Scott, and it sucks. But I agree with you. We need to see more. I do see Dan Owen's comment, and I'll get to it a little bit later. It just says, do the Bears split with the Vikings or get swept? Me and Paulie will give our predictions for the game maybe a little bit later. Paulie, what I want to ask you about is our secondary. I know that you agree with me that we're a very deep unit, but we've got a little tiny bit of turmoil with our safeties. So, of course, our starting safety combination on paper would have been Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker. Jaquan Brisker spent 4 weeks out before, again, being put on IR. So, again, 2 months with a concussion. Terrible, terrible stuff.
Very
But
concerned.
the great Elijah Hicks filled in and played admirably. I know a lot of people will be quick to say, but his gap scheme was bad. He can't stop the run. He's a 7th-round pick, guys. We understand that he's not the starter. That
But
said, now
Karl,
Elijah Hicks is hurt. So tomorrow, what you'll be seeing, like I said, Mr. Biles, Jonathan Owens, will be filling in. And we're only going to have 2 backups by the names of Tavarius Moore and Adrian Colbert. My question to you, Paulie. A certain someone named Eddie Jackson was waived by the Baltimore Ravens today. I know where you stand, and I want to preface this question by saying I think that Eddie Jackson is washed and has no business playing football for the Chicago Bears. But what would your thought be? What would your initial reaction be if the Bears signed Eddie Jackson to fill in at safety, call it for 2 weeks?
I would take the leash that I'm holding Ryan Poles on and just move up on it another foot or two because what? And so when you mentioned that to me, I was like, oh, that's cute. And I was like, wait, you actually want to talk about that? Because it's funny, it's cute, that's a great joke.
Almost as cute
Man,
or funny as the Scrolls comment on chat here. I'm sorry. Continue, please.
oh, that's great. So yeah, you're not about to be like, hey, you're not good enough for this team. We're gonna cut you, and then a couple months later, be like, we suck. Come back.
I don't think
Please.
Eddie Jackson was cut. Eddie Jackson's
Not
contract
re-signed.
expired, and he wasn't re-signed. And I agree. He has no business. I think that it could be as fringe like the level of what this is, it's on the same level of Disney movie as giving Doug Kramer the ball on a fullback dive in Washington against the Redskins, right?
100%.
It'd be total Disney bullshit. But there is one thing that literally pops into my head while I was taking a shower, which this could be awesome. And again, I've already prefaced, I don't want Eddie Jackson on the Chicago Bears playing meaningful football because it would mean that we have a big point to be exposed. If you feel that Eddie Jackson can play better for 2 weeks or maybe 1 week to fill in for an injured Elijah Hicks because you think that Eddie Jackson is better than Jonathan Biles and Tavarius Moore and Adrian Colbert, do it. Get him on a cheap contract. And the biggest thing that he could do for us, which could be super important, I believe Eddie Jackson played the season with the Bears last year with a certain someone named Tyreek Stevenson. I am under the impression that Tyreek Stevenson's career has been derailed by the Redskins incident. I think that Tyreek Stevenson needs essentially a father figure, someone to get him back on the tracks and get his ass in gear. Because he's a Florida boy, he's always going to act arrogant, whatever you want to call it. But Terrell Smith is playing better football than him right now. And if I'm the Bears, and especially if you're going to be bringing in someone else new who didn't essentially contribute to drafting Tyreek Stevenson could end up being a lost cause very quickly. And that would suck. He was a second-round pick. He needs to play meaningful football for you because he's a good player. But if Eddie Jackson, if nothing else, can come in, do a job for a game or two, and then essentially be the father figure that we need to get Tyreek Stevenson back in shape, that would be awesome, and I would love it. And I think that that would be a really good capstone for Eddie Jackson's career, because when it all is said and done, he was a good player for the Bears. But right now we're shitting on him. Maybe he just doesn't have it in him anymore. But I think Eddie Jackson would be a good man for this job specifically.
Karl, I'm gonna, and I don't hide from my history or my thoughts in previous years, and this was way before I even started a channel. Eddie Jackson was my guy for the first 2 years.
Love him.
And then he wasn't. And then he was a total liability. And I'm just like, man, I guess the faults were there early on. He does not like to finish plays. You'll never see him, be the fourth guy in a pile up to just go in there and run it over. Like, no, he'll sit there. If somebody else wants to tackle him, he'll just sit there and watch it. And I don't know. There's a lot of things that he does not do well, right? And he's been injured a bunch. And dude, he obviously wasn't enough for the Ravens, right? They just got rid of him.
I will have you know, their secondary, which according to EPA per DB, my favorite statistic for this type of stuff, it's expected points added per dropback. The Ravens are like bottom 5. Like your Ravens are ranked alongside with the Patriots, Buccaneers, and Panthers and Jaguars. That is a bad secondary right now.
They probably felt part of the reason why was because this guy's out here.
But you have this high top-end talent with Kyle Hamilton, all these guys, and it's just not working out. So I understand Eddie Jackson being the scapegoat. I feel like there's a little bit more to it, too.
It's not the scapegoat so much as the reason sometimes, Karl, because I like Jaquan Brisker, and although he's gotten injured, one of the things that Kevin Byard allowed Jaquan Brisker to do is be that guy that takes chances. Now, Eddie Jackson, when he was in the game, first of all, Eddie Jackson plays I always get him mixed up. He plays strong safety.
No. Eddie
free
Jackson,
safety.
Well,
and then
that was the problem. They asked Eddie Jackson to play strong safety and come up and tackle when they knew that wasn't his strong suit. So that's what you'd have to do if you sign Eddie Jackson to do a patchwork 1 or 2 game stint. He would have to be the free safety, and essentially you'd have to tell Kevin Byard, there's no more 50-50. You're a strong safety, and you have to be the one to fill in and make the tackles.
So what I saw when Eddie Jackson was here in his last year or two is he'd be the guy that would take the gut feeling chances. Oh, I'm just going to blitz this play because I feel it. And I'm just going to run it. And it forced Jaquan Brisker to be the safety net at a very young age when he's more athletic, probably faster, and can get the job done better. And what you saw with Kevin Byard coming in is he was willing to be that safety net and allow Jaquan Brisker to move up a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage and be able to make some plays there. And that's, unfortunately, that's kind of how he got hurt too. He came in on a tackle and And did it.
Wasn't
But
his fault, by the way, but your point is valid.
I know, but like the reason why he's put in that situation is because he was allowed to, because he didn't have to just be the safety net guy. Exactly. And Eddie Jackson was consistently busting coverage in his last few years for sure. And that's why you needed somebody behind Eddie Jackson. And so to me, that's a lost cause. Man, for where this team's at, like really, for where this team's at, we're not about to compete in any kind of legitimate way. The Ravens are. So they're looking to sit there and clean up their mistakes and try and get as sound as they can, try and get as uniform as they can. That's why they got rid of them. But for where we're at, our mentality has to be next man up. I don't care what the name is on the back of the jersey. Like these guys that have been there with the team that have been working with us, practicing, putting in work. Here's your opportunity, kid. Go out there and get it. Because if they do, by the way, real nice podcast etiquette. When you have to, you know what I mean? You cover your mouth when you have to yawn. It's good stuff, Karl. That's why you're legit. But no, but for where we're at, yeah, you just got to give these young guys opportunities. You got to let somebody go out there and be able to make some names for themselves and make some plays and this and that. And yeah, if they mess up, oh well, like the season's lost anyway. So go out there and give it to the next man up would be my mentality on it.
Yeah, I mean, if literally when we saw in Hard Knocks, when Adrian Colbert was let go by the Bears, Ryan Poles cried like a baby. So I think the page is turned. I don't want Eddie Jackson playing football for the Chicago Bears. Let Jonathan Biles play. A lot of people would say that Jonathan Biles should have been the player that replaced Jaquan Brisker when Jaquan got hurt. And I don't disagree with that. But they also said, let's have, to your point, next man up. The next man up in the depth chart for Brisker was Hicks. Hicks was developed by this team, by this coaching staff. Let him have his shot and leave Biles in his, special teams ace role. We literally saw him block and return a punt.
And Karl, the reason why they went out and worked out Edmonds isn't because he's Tremaine Edmonds' brother. No, it's because he played on the Titans with Kevin Byard. So maybe there's at least some familiarity there between the two safeties.
I thought he was on the Steelers originally, but you're probably right.
I believe he was on the Titans last year. I could look that up just to be sure.
Yeah, regardless, whatever the case was, they brought all those guys in. It reminds me of the Matt Nagy kicking fiasco, where you just have a bunch of guys go in and try and earn it. I think we're in lockstep here. If Eddie Jackson wants to play meaningful football for us, I think it would be a mistake.
In 2023, he was on the Titans, so maybe he's got some familiarity with Kevin Byard, but I may be wrong there. So,
but last year he was on the Steelers?
Steelers, yes.
I thought he was drafted by the Steelers, so that's a really weird one.
This year, 2024, he was on the Steelers. Last year, he was on the Jaguars, didn't play at all. 2023, he was on the Titans. Before that, he was on the Eagles, and before that, he was on the Steelers. So Steelers, right. Okay. The Steelers pulled the Eddie Jackson move that you want to do. They took him back.
Pick.
Was he?
Wow. Terrell Edmonds was a first-round pick with his brother, yeah. Yeah, Tremaine got drafted by the Bills. Terrell Edmonds got drafted by the Steelers, and he flamed out. The Steelers had some bad draft picks, including Devin Bush, which I'm not afraid of. Go Blue. But
yeah, I think Eddie Jackson would be a joke. I mean, if that actually happened, I couldn't. I don't know. No,
I think you'd have to have one more injury. But again, if they chose the players that they did, obviously they had their workouts before Eddie Jackson. If you go back and say, okay, we're going to work out Edmonds again, we're going to work out Eddie Jackson, all this stuff. Again, Eddie Jackson would have to prove something serious. And my argument is not for him being the best player per se. But again, patchwork job, let's get through 1 or 2 weeks. That investment, that contract investment into Eddie Jackson would essentially be to be Tyreek Stevenson's big bro. Because at the end of the day, Tyreek Stevenson is the player who I think is the one that we need to resuscitate, essentially. Because I had heard rumors of Terrell Smith being a fringe safety. They try out at safety just because of his physical attributes, right? If Terrell Smith could fill in as cornerback any of your outside cornerbacks or safety, that would be a very, very valuable piece to this football team. Hopefully that you'd be able to re-sign on the low. But regardless, the Bears are deep at secondary. Again, favorite stat, EPA per DB. Going into this week, the Bears are ranked tied for first. There's a three-way tie between the Lions of all teams, Bears, and Broncos, with essentially, Paulie, the Bears secondary is expected to give up a negative 0.9 points per dropback, which is fucking phenomenal in my opinion.
Especially with no pass rush. Like that's hats off
That's
to
correct.
them because they're doing work, because usually they're the beneficiary of pass rush. And I just want to shout out to Scottish Bear for literally participating in both our chats. Like, that's awesome,
Dude,
Scottish. Thank you so much, man.
Scottish Bear is the man. Paulie, if you said that you need to step away, by all means, I will definitely man down the ship. Let me say hello to everyone because, again, we've got a three-way simulcast going on Bears Country Productions, the Lions My Podcast, and BearskiFilm. Oh, who's that? Karl hates that Jonathan is connected to his very successful wife, Simone Biles. My frustration regarding that, ma'am, Jonathan Owens is a football player, and he should be considered a good football player, in my opinion. But the fact that Simone Biles was kind of a head storyline for half of the entire Hard Knocks series, it did rub me a little wrong way. Not that I have anything against Miss... oh my God. Jonathan Owens is Jonathan Biles, yeah. But yeah, I have nothing against Simone Biles. Fantastic. There's a couple new people in chat that I'm unfamiliar with, so thank you guys very, very much for stopping by. I did say Bear Truth already. PJ, obviously, how's it going, man? I appreciate your contribution to the chat. It's helping out a lot right now. Bob Swede, Chad Speaker. How do I pronounce this name? I can't pronounce that. Skull for Bob, he says, though. Norcephus? Did I get it right? If I got it wrong, let me know. Let me know either way if I got it right or wrong. Karl, what's up? How are you? This BCP is the best. I'm doing really, really good, Chad. Thanks for your contribution to chat. Very, very appreciated. I'm jumping all about the chats. It's fun. Mr. Antmus, Bear down here. Yeah. Hit that like button, as Mr. PJ had said. If you guys are not subscribed to any of the three channels, again, Bears Country Productions, Lions My, BearskiFilm, please consider subscribing to any of the channels that you are not. But either way, we appreciate your guys' contribution.
Karl, can I just share some personal memories with you about
Please.
Bears Vikings? So
Please.
there's two games that I've been to that stick out. I've been to a couple Bears Vikings games, and very early on when I was going to them, one thing stood out like clearly, and it was that Adrian Peterson was the best football player on the field. When I would go and watch that guy, I mean, my goodness.
You didn't see his rookie game against the Bears in real
No,
life,
I
did you?
didn't. I didn't. I was working for
Bro,
that one.
I was
I remember
so
that one.
disheartened, right? So I started watching the Bears with the 05, 06 teams. And man, these defensive players, Urlacher, Briggs, I was like, oh my God, these guys are on top of the world. I knew Urlacher was going to go to the Hall of Fame. Like, these guys cannot be bested. Rookie game, Adrian Peterson, 300 total yards, stiff arming, trucking guys. He is a freak, bro.
So I'm going to give you one negative one and one positive one. The negative memory is Mark Trestman's second year. I believe our home opener, we were projected to have a top 5 offense. Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Matt Forte, Jay Cutler, Martellus Bennett was here. And I believe our home opener was in week 2. And I had bought a 4-pack of tickets. Usually my friend takes me because he's had season tickets his whole life. His dad has had them since the 60s. But this time I was giving back. I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat him to a game. And so I went and bought him. And funny enough, at the time it was David, my co-host on BearskiFilm. I gave him a ticket, and then my other buddy. And I remember it was pouring rain like a motherfucker. But we were at the end zone behind the field goal post, right under the Jumbotron. So we were kind of covered from it. And this is when I knew it was all going to go bad. It was week 2, home opener. And the Bears were, I don't know, at the 3-yard line, ready to score. And they had come out in a heavy set formation. And the Vikings responded to it. And then all of a sudden, Jay Cutler drops back in a shotgun. Matt Forte splits out wide. Martellus Bennett splits out wide. Now instead of 2 wide, you have 4 wide. and they're about to snap the ball, and a flag is thrown for just, I forgot, it wasn't even a penalty on any team. It was just kind of like a delay due to the time clock or something was being off, and we got to reset the time and this and that. And when I asked people about this who were watching at home, they said, man, the rain was so bad that the game actually blacked out at this moment. So I don't think it ever got attention because it was blacked out on national TV for that little bit. So next play, what do? Karl, they come out in a heavy set formation. This time the Vikings come out with like six defensive backs. And what do the Bears do? They drop Jay Cutler's shotgun. They split
Motion
Matt
out
Forte.
of it.
I was just like, my goodness, dude. You fooled them the first time. You had it. You're not, what are you doing? Like, they're clearly ready for you now. And they just try to run it anyway and couldn't get it. And I remember thinking, this guy's a moron. And so, yeah, that season went the way it went. A good memory about Bears versus Vikings. It was a Monday night around this time, because I remember it being around Thanksgiving time. And me and my buddy went to the game, and it was Brett Favre's year, the year that they went 12-4.
Is
And
this
went
the
to the
Monday
play.
night game you're talking about?
It is a Monday night game, and we went to it.
Devin
And on the way,
Romashadu.
yes, sir, you know where I'm going with this. And so on the way in, we're walking, through that little underpass right before Soldier Field, and me and my buddy were the only ones screaming, "Brett Favre sucks. Brett Favre sucks." And everybody's looking at us like, this team is really fucking good right now, right? And so at the end of the game, yes, I believe, I don't remember, I don't know if it went into overtime or if it was at the very end of the game, but there was a deep post that I think it was Cutler hit Devin Aroma
I do
and he
think that the
ran
game
in
went to overtime.
and he ran in for the touchdown. And I remember on the way out during that underpass, we were screaming, "Brett Favre sucks." Everybody was screaming it with us. And that was one of my favorite going to Soldier Field memories that I had growing up, was the time we beat Brett Favre in his comeback season. So that's awesome that you remember it too. But yeah, I'll never forget that one.
Yeah, I will never forget the Devin Aromashadu legacy game. That was a hell of a game from him, and I'm very glad that you were able to experience that live, because I'm sure it was damn awesome. It's also ironic. What?
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to say, I really want to comment on The Alchemist, who's commenting on my channel. He says, as a Packers fan. Okay, go ahead. No, finish your thought.
What I wanted to say is distasteful, and I have to remember that I'm simulcasting to two other channels, so I don't want to say anything bad. Let's move on.
Oh, you could say anything bad on my channel. Worry about the other two.
I was going to say that I think it's ironic that after getting beat up by Brett Favre for all those years, losing all those games, the Bears are the team that ended Brett Favre's career. Corey Wooten sacked him on that frigid Monday night game in the University of Minnesota Stadium, and that was it.
That's all we fucking have, though, Karl. That's all we have. You know what I mean? It's sad.
Well,
You're right.
The Packers, as a Packers fan, Mr. Alchemist, you've got, 40 years of fantastic starling quarterback play, and how many Super Bowls do you have, buddy? Only one more than us.
Don't attack him personally, because honestly, the Alchemist, as a Bears fan, I agree. I mean, not 0%, but we're looking at 0.005. Like we have such a tiny chance. I mean, I don't know if it's that low. Maybe I'll give him 1%, 2%, maybe 1 out of 50 times you match up.
Let me explain something to you. The Bears were able to dominate the Jaguars on a neutral field. The Vikings barely beat the Jaguars without Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. So, I don't think that the Vikings are these world beaters. Oh my God, we have to find a way to not play with them in the playoffs. Let's lose a game to not play against the Vikings. That's nowhere near the truth. The Vikings are fine. They have a very good record. Are they what they're, your favorite quote is, again, from Mr. Parcells, I believe. You are what your record says.
Yep.
That's not true about the Vikings, buddy. I refuse to accept that.
Listen, I didn't accept it last year. Last year, I was like, well, because at the end of the day, they have Kirk Cousins. And what happened in the playoff game? It's 4th and 8, and Kirk Cousins throws a out route to the tight end for 4 yards and hopes he breaks the tackle. No, you just lost the game because you didn't toss it up to Justin Jefferson. Who, come on, man! It's the end of the game in the playoffs, but you're Kirk Cousins. That's what you've been doing your whole career. Now with Sam Darnold, it's interesting because he's playing really well over there, man. He's just following
He was.
instructions.
He
He
was
was.
playing well.
So this is what I'm saying. Like our chance of winning completely depends on them imploding. We need them to have a bad Sunday, which happens to a lot of teams. No team out there is perfect, and it's almost impossible to go winless in today's NFL. Like you're bound to just get a better Sunday than some other teams. And yeah, whatever, Bob Sweet. He'll be painting his nails in 2 years. Wait. Um, but
Yeah, I'll get him.
yeah, whatever. I mean, that's just stupid. But yeah, so I think we're hoping for the Vikings to have a bad game. And I think we're hoping to capitalize on them. I mean, we're going to need our defense to do some work. It's going to need to be a very big team effort in order to be able to pull off a victory. Is it possible? Sure. Am I going to put money on it? No, no way.
I need to highlight this before I lose it, and the only way that I can prove this is by showing you a screenshot. So Chad, y'all better start casting your spells. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Emmy. I'm sorry, Mr. Chad. I think our key is to stopping Jones. Let me see if I can get this sorted out real quick. Take a look at these notes on my phone. Do you guys accept that that says November 23rd, 8:12 p.m.? It's really hard to see.
I mean, yeah, I saw it. I can verify.
It clearly says keys to the game.
Yes.
Contain Aaron Jones, Bears
Bear
killer.
killer. Yes.
Chad, we're lockstep on this. Absolutely. I think that if the Bears want to have a chance to win, and you don't want this Kevin O'Connell passing game to take over, you can't let Aaron Jones win the game. You could probably stop him as a running back. Not easily, but I think that you can stop the running game. But what Aaron Jones is very good at is finding a way to leak out of the backfield and take a pass to the house. He's able to get something behind the line of scrimmage, make a man miss, and like my notes said, Aaron Jones is a Bears killer. That has been happening with the Packers, so can that translate to the Vikings? Maybe. But I think that if you're able to stop Aaron Jones and prevent him from breaking the game wide open, Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Justin Jefferson is going to get his. Can you keep him out of the end zone and keep this game to not... if you allow the Vikings to score 30 points, we're not going to win. We know that. I'll give my prediction in a little bit, but I think that the Bears need to be able to put up points, and I think they can win if they do that, because I think that the Bears are not going to let the Vikings offense just run right over them.
So, I have a little bit different of an opinion. I think the way we win this game is I don't think you're stopping Justin Jefferson, and I think Aaron Jones is going to get his too, because like I said, our deficiencies just match up really well with what they do well. Like, how are you going to stop Aaron Jones? With what? Your linebackers? Well, then in that case, Justin Jefferson's having a mad game. So at the end of the day, what we're going to need is to get really lucky. We're going to need big plays, turnovers. We're going to need a pick six. We're going to need a fumble. We're going to need. I don't care if
You're going to have to win the turnover battle.
Yeah, I don't care if
the
Jones
Bears will
gets
not win
100
the game.
yards or whatever. If as long as he fumbles it at least once or twice, I think we win that, and that's how we're going to have to pull this one off if we do.
I don't think that the Bears will win if the turnover margin is negative or even even. I think the Bears are going to have to get at least one, ideally two turnovers, and turn those into points. Again, I like Paulie's saying, I don't know if Aaron Jones is going to get his, because again, if you can stop him, you can make the team one-dimensional. Justin Jefferson is going to get his regardless. We all know Jalen Johnson, top 5 cornerback in the NFL. Many would argue he's the number 1 cornerback in the NFL. But the worst thing that I hate about this Bears defense is that they don't play man coverage, and they won't have a Jalen Johnson shadow a Justin Jefferson. And what the Vikings are going to do is they're going to play the matchups, and they're going to get Justin Jefferson open against anyone that isn't Jalen Johnson. So it's not like we can just have him shadow him and lock him down, which I think he's capable of doing, and that's what frustrates me. But again, win the turnover battle, have the offense become one-dimensional as far as the Vikings are concerned. And on the Bears, let me show my favorite screenshot.
It pisses me off so much, Karl. Don't show the screenshot yet. pisses me off so much. Just the basic philosophy, even down to the defensive side. Like I know Matt Eberflus has gotten a lot of credit for being a good defensive coordinator, this and that. He might not even be that. He might just be very average. Dude, this isn't 1995. Like you had the Patriots show you a game plan, especially from the offensive side of the football, of how to sit there and win year after year after year after year. You know what they would do? They would attack the other team's weaknesses. It's not about what we can do well on offense. It's about what they do bad on defense. Dude, I can remember a game against the Bills where it was a blizzard, and like the Patriots didn't even pass once, or they passed like twice or something. They just ran the ball again because
Oh,
it's a damn blizzard. Like, dude, it doesn't take a genius to
that
figure
was
out.
against the Bills, man.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was
that.
against the Bills, and that's
But
what I'm
it, but
saying.
it,
Like,
it, it was windy, and that was a combined. I think between the two teams,
how
they
do
only
you
passed the ball
not
10
flip
times.
your fucking corner to shadow a guy? Do you like? Do you understand?
It's soft, Paul. Let's call it what it
It's
is. It's soft.
asinine. I mean, I don't know. Like at the basic level, it's just
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I can't make sense of it.
Scottish Caleb is in for a tough time. I don't know if you were in here when I showed this. I don't mind showing it one more time. This is a formation that we saw on the first third down of the game this past week for the Vikings. 6 men on the line of scrimmage, 0 of those men being defensive linemen, okay? So I'm going to show you the play. But please watch 43, Andrew Van Ginkel. He's lined up over the center to the right of the center as per the point of view that you guys are about to get. You can clearly see he's going to fake like he's rushing, peel off, and then he comes over. 2 of those guys dropped out, right? So they're finding a way to
You know, you got to watch. Can you bring that back? You got
Absolutely.
to watch. Who's that lineman? Who is it? 77 that just goes out there because he sees 43 cutting inside. So he's like, "Oh, I'm going to help pick this guy up." And then when he bounces back, look at 77 just out there. Or no, who is that? 60? It's man, yeah, 60, the center. Okay, so the center that's supposed to initially guard him. Look at him just doing out there, just bounced out. And he's looking like, where's my guy? All the way over there.
But that's what
Like,
it was, right? It was a
damn it.
stunt. Look at
Dude,
the
it's
right. Look
insane.
at the right side. They're like playing a zone
They ran
blocking
it
scheme, but on
perfectly.
defense.
Perfectly.
They crash him out. They shepherd the center out, and Andrew
And
Van Ginkel,
77
who's
is
gonna go
also
to the
doing
Pro Bowl
nothing.
this year.
You had two
Well,
guys that were
they just didn't
totally,
adjust. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. They were totally useless in that play. Meanwhile, the guy that they were, either of them could have potentially blocked, is getting to the quarterback at the end of the day, right? Man, we are so much worse than that. Based off what I've seen on this offensive line, I can't tell you how many times, like I said, I've seen 3 guys trying to block one guy. The guy's just out there standing out there like this, just doing nothing. I mean, it's for putting highlights together, it's all over the place. That's why I'm afraid. Like that, they're the things they do well match up really well against the things that we really suck at right now. So it's going to take a hell of an effort from this offensive line to not make this look really terrible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but we did see against the Packers, Mr. Caleb Williams got the ball out of his hands very, very quickly, and that really shouldn't change. The only time that I think that should change is if you find a way, like you call their bluff, okay? You have this exotic front, and you're able to have the quarterback diagnose exactly who's coming where, and you catch them in this rotation, right? Because I'll play the play one last. I'll play this view,
Do
okay?
it. The 822. Like, who do you go to there? What is the right read?
Um,
And I'm not saying like I'm an expert. I'm just saying where's the opportunity?
well, I think unfortunately, what
It might be number
when you're
2.
passing the ball,
It might be
when you're
number 2.
passing the ball,
The flat.
this one,
No. Go back to the first view. Play it. It might be number 2 at the flat right now.
yeah. I mean,
Like that's your opportunity,
I don't know
or
what the distance. I don't know
or
what the distance is. I think that they're really far behind the sticks, right? Because I believe that
yeah,
they punted after this. But
yeah. It's
all I'm
right.
saying is,
Exactly.
this was one of my keys to the games on offense, including being able to identify this exotic pressure that you're going to be seeing. You have to stay ahead of the down and distance because in this formation, if they're not showing you a defensive lineman, what do you do against a team that doesn't have a defensive lineman? You run the fucking football. So if you're gonna bring in a running back, even if it's out of shotgun, you should be able to then run at it and get the first down if it's a
But
3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. But
right,
I'm
but it's
I'm I'm
situational.
pressed to say that this is a 3rd and 13.
Third and long, yes, exactly. Third and over 10. That's why the only thing you are going to do. But here's the thing: some teams will still run it here, depending on what point in the game it is, and that's why situational football matters so much. It's not just about the play call and the way you react; it's about the situation at hand. Like the fact that it's 3rd and 13 matters a lot because it kind of takes a dimension away from you. You're less likely to run the ball, so I'm more likely to put out six. You know what I mean? Like it's just really good play calling from the defensive side, and yeah, you could see everybody. You could see where the first down markers are right there. Everybody that needs to get the ball for a first down is covered, right? So your only chance is to either dump this thing off and hope a guy makes a play, or
Or
like,
rip
or
it.
you could have ran
Look
it.
at here.
And maybe if
I
you
don't know
do
if you can
run
see
it,
my
maybe
mouse
the
cursor
guy
there.
does get 13 yards and pick it up. But if it's for the fourth quarter and you absolutely need this third down, then you're not likely to gamble on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for my money, I believe that's Harrison Smith, the player who's maybe not. Whatever the case is, there's a player who's closest to the 0, so not number 2 at the bottom, but then the next one up above the screen. The guy is cutting in. If that's Roma Dunze and I'm Caleb Williams looking at it, just fucking rip it. See what happens.
Yeah, there's also
That's
a wide
that's
receiver.
very gunslinger, by the way, in my opinion.
There's also somebody going over the middle right there. He's at the right hash mark, but I mean, you're going to throw that guy dead. The safety's
No,
going to
yeah,
come in there and
yeah,
clobber him. So it's going to have to
absolutely.
be a miracle
Yeah,
throw.
and if it's Harrison Smith, the player who's doing the clobbering, he's a very dirty player. So you don't want that. You don't want your guys getting
It's
hurt.
just great play calling by their defense. So that's
Yeah,
why I said this defense is filled
and
with
then
no names. There's no real superstars there. It's schematically good, man.
at least on their front, there's no names. I mean, Harrison Smith is definitely a name. But what I'm going to say is, I'd probably like to move on from the Vikings conversation because we've tapped out. But I know regarding the head coach, a lot of people would like to see a Brian Flores be the Bears' defensive coordinator. Let me show you this. That's a front that you have in your locker. How do the Bears do that with this set of players? Are you telling me you want TJ Edwards playing that Van Ginkel role? No, thanks, man. The amount of turnover that you'd have to instill a Brian Flores defense, forget about it. That would take years. So
Dude.
I don't want a Brian Flores.
So first off, you need an offensive guy here as head coach. You do. Because
Absolutely, Paulie.
because just in the NFL, when these offensive guys, if you have a defensive minded head coach and if offensive coordinator does well, that guy's getting head coach opportunities. He's going to be gone in a year or two, right? So you're going to be cycling through offensive coordinators.
What I will say, I don't want the Bears to ever be scared of that. Like I would much have preferred that the Bear. Actually, I would have preferred that the Bears lost Shane Waldron this year, going into him being hired. Right? I would have hoped that Shane Waldron was so goddamn good that someone was forced to give us 2 first-round picks for him. If we're losing an offensive coordinator every year because we're good, that's fine by me. I don't want to be
No,
afraid of success in that sense.
it doesn't happen that way though, Carl. The way it happens is like, oh, John Fox takes over, brings in Adam Gase, and he fixes Jay Cutler, so he gets a head coaching opportunity, right? So like, it's not always great, and you're always essentially elevating your staff members up to take the opportunity on, and that's always a chance thing. Now you're hoping this guy's good, right? Whereas on the other hand, if you hire an offensive minded head coach, and he's in charge of the offense, it's a lot easier to get good defensive coordinators out there and have them stick around. You look at what the Chiefs are doing. Steve Spagnuolo was a head coach. He's in charge of that defense. Like you can get guys that have had a lot of experience.
I would
Robert
call
Saleh comes to mind.
Spagnuolo an
Mike
outlier.
Vrabel comes to mind. Like you have these guys that were
Salah,
head coaches,
absolutely.
but when they're head coaches on the offensive side and they fail, they don't really, You know what I mean? They don't always get those same opportunities. I mean, I guess Cliff Kingsbury is still an offensive coordinator, and like these guys do get demoted. Matt Nagy went back to offensive coordinator, but then you're very wary of giving them another head coaching position. But still, I would much rather have an offensive minded head coach because the defensive guy is a lot more likely to stick around for the long term, and it helps build continuity. I could think of Dick LeBeau and Don Capers for the Steelers and the Packers. Those guys were there for decades. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. I think one of them was 15 years. The other one was 20 plus years. Steelers had one defensive coordinator for like 20 years.
They've also only had 3 head coaches in 100 years, their entire franchise.
And they
So
were all
that's
damn
just
good
this.
coaches.
Yeah, yeah, that's just the Steelers way. But I understand your point. The fact of the
So,
matter is that you need an offensive minded head coach only strictly for the fact that you are locked into a generational quarterback.
and that's only part one. Part two of not getting Brian Flores is like you said, how are you going to get cute with this roster? Flip it to the offensive side. What does Ben Johnson do for you? How are you going to get cute with this offensive line? What you need is stability and experience. You need somebody who can come in here, who knows what the hell they're doing, who has a lot of experience in the league, that's going to bring a good staff with him. And that guy was Jim Harbaugh last year. Yeah, exactly. Kyle Shanahan is the obvious one. I'll go back to the situation with Andy Reid. Andy Reid was fired by the Eagles. He was there for 8 years. The reason why they let him stay on for 8 years, even though he made a Super Bowl and lost it, is because he's a damn good coach. So it's not the results that matter, it's what you know that matters. And Howie Roseman knew Andy Reid was a good coach, but it went stale. Situationally, they just had to move on from him. And then they got Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl and was fired 3 years later by the Eagles. Why? Because he's not a good head coach. Even though he had more success there than Andy Reid did, they still held on to Andy Reid for much longer than they did with Doug Peterson. So it's like Kyle Shanahan is that situation. If it gets stale with the 49ers, that guy's a goddamn good head coach, and he's proven it. I want him here. Like that's the golden nugget for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and every single day it becomes more and more possible that the 49ers could feel that they've hit a brick wall, this and that, whatever the case is. So I wouldn't be surprised. My only fear with Ben Johnson is we obviously know that he's able to output a very talented offense. That doesn't say anything about him being a good head coach. So I do agree that the next head coach hiring needs to be offensive minded because it's so important to get the most out of Caleb Williams. I agree with you. The defense has had their time to shine as far as the amount of investment that has been injected into it. I think Bears fans can agree that we need one more piece on the defensive line, which that's only one draft pick. Hopefully that you hit on that and that's it. That it's
You,
time to start shifting things to the offense because that's how this game is won. The Bears have had a streak of what? Not giving up 21 points or more in how many games outside of the Cardinals game? We're still losing football games, guys. I mean, the days of the 05-06 defense, they're long gone. The rules have been tailored. The offenses are too good. The quarterbacks are too good. It's time for a change in that regard. Paulie, I would like to know kind of your exact prediction for the game tomorrow because I wanted to address Owen's comment. You can start off with what you think the prediction will be tomorrow. I know you said that it's going to be something where the Bears are going to need essentially a miracle. The Vikings are going to have to lose it for us. But what do you think about the game tomorrow? And then do they have a chance in either of these games against the Vikings?
um, in my preseason prediction, I did have him splitting. However, I also thought the Vikings were going to be at the bottom of the barrel. They've shown consistently that they're not. And yeah, they're the number one, the number two team in this division, right behind the Lions, in my opinion. It's Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears. I mean, that's just how it is. And my prediction for the game tomorrow is going to be like 28-13 Vikings. If we happen to sneak off a win, it's going to be like a 23-20 win or something. Like where it's going to be a close game. But if they just go out there and do what they do, and we go out there and we do what we do, oh, they're going to blow us out.
I don't know if it's going to be a blowout, man. My prediction I think was 28-24 because again, I'm going to be hopeful that the Bears are going to be able to identify these blitzes. Not all of them. They're going to get home. That's just what's going to happen. But for every time that happens, hopefully the Bears can catch Mr. Reliable Harrison Smith in a rotation, burn Roma Dunze over the top, get a nice touchdown. Anything is possible. And with the way DeAndre Swift is playing, I know he's got an injury designation. I would not be surprised if he has a big game as well, and that would be awesome.
Anything
As
is
far
possible, but like the possibility is what we're talking about. Like for us to win, I think it's like a 5% or less chance. So what's most likely
I don't
to
know about
happen
that.
if listen, like you said, Justin Jefferson's their go-to. We're not even going to shadow him with our best corner. So we're not going to take that away. And that's what they do good on offense. Aaron Jones, bear killer, according to you. We're not about to take that away because we don't have like the defensive line to do
We
it.
can prevent him from winning the game, is what I'm hopeful of.
They
I
have
don't know if
plenty
Aaron
of other.
Jones is going to run for 100 yards. I don't know if he's going to have 2 touchdowns as a receiver, but just slow him down. Justin Jefferson, no doubt about it. I'm not a betting man. If you guys want to bet, use BetUS. Mr. Justin Jefferson is going to go for $125 and probably a touchdown. He's going to get his, and that's it.
Probably two. And
Probably.
I know earlier in the pod you mentioned Tyreek Stevenson's downfall being that Hail Mary, right? And I was very high on Tyreek Stevenson in his rookie year because what I heard about him when he got drafted was, oh, he might slip up in coverage here and there and whatnot, but he's a hard hitting corner. He's a good tackler, and he showed that for sure. He's very tough. He'll get guys down. But then he also got 4 picks in his rookie year. So it's like, okay, even if he lets some coverage slip here and there, if he can make the big plays, that's worth it. However, this year, before the game against the Commanders, David said something to me, and he said Tyree Stevenson being a liability. And I was like, liability? And he's like, dude, don't pretend like he's played well this year. Just because like you like him or you like the name. He's like, he's given up some big plays consistently throughout the first 4 or 5 weeks. And the pinnacle of the mistakes happened against the Commanders. But unfortunately, Tyreek Stevenson was having a down year. So is that who's going to be lined up against Justin Jefferson? Is that our number 2?
It's not that we're going to say, hey, Tyreek Stevenson shadow Jefferson.
No,
It's
but
going to
that's who
be, who
they're
do
going
the
to.
Vikings scheme up against?
Yeah, obviously him over Jalen, right? Like, dude, it's not going to be
Or
nice.
ideally, if you're the Vikings, what I've been seeing and what Jack Sanborn just got exposed for, and what T.J. Edwards got very much exposed for against the Cardinals and the Redskins, the Bears linebackers outside of Tremaine Edmonds are not good in pass coverage. So the Vikings are going to be having those crossers over the middle, start outside, come inside, late into that zone, about that 10, 15-yard range, and they're just going to take our lunch money. That's for fact.
And so why do we win this game then?
Because I think that the Bears are going to start cooking on offense. I think that they'll be able to get some turnovers, get some points on some deep balls, and it's not going to be this little 10-13 game. My prediction is 28-24.
Yeah, so like I said, the only way I have them winning is with the Vikings imploding. I believe when Sam Darnold threw his 5 interceptions, they still won that game, but they won it 12-7. I know last year when we faced them, we beat them 12-9 one time with Justin Fields. It was just nothing but field goals all game. Nothing but field goals all game. And that was with Kirk Cousins there.
In their
So like
house. Our
yes, in their
defense
house.
has the ability to shut them down. I don't
So
know if
it
it'll happen.
if we win, which is extremely unlikely, I think the manner that it's going to happen and is going to be low scoring. I'm not ready to
Um,
lean on this offense yet, Carl. I'm
let
not.
me drive home your point regarding Tyreek Stevenson, okay? What this chart is, it's not the full chart, as you can see. Jalen Johnson up here in the top right, okay? This is target rate against versus raw PFF separation prevented. You do not want to be in the bottom left. And look who's all by his lonesome in the bottom.
It's crazy that
Tyreek
I'm the guy with
Ty,
glasses here.
Tyreek Stevenson is definitely a liability. We saw him get burnt. He got caught looking in the cookie jar against the Patriots, leaked out, got a touchdown there. Tyreek Stevenson has not been good this year. So again, that's kind of why I tried to make the point regarding Eddie Jackson, because we got to get his brain back into the correct spot, rather, step one.
There is no point about Eddie Jackson.
I won't do
um,
the do-si-do with you. Let's move past. What I'd like to do is just refer to one of the comments that I saw, Mr. Bob Sweet. Bob, you said, oh no, this is not the comment I wanted to react to. But Bob, thank you very
oh
much.
hell yeah! Thank you, Bob.
We really appreciate that on all fronts. Thank you very much, Bob. Again, really appreciate your interaction in the chat. It's Norcephus is who asked me this. He said, Karl, with that Michigan shirt, what do you think of J.J. McCarthy? My original plan, before I ever allowed myself to think that the Bears could acquire Caleb Williams, was for the Bears to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and then J.J. McCarthy in the second round. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy shot up the draft boards. Michigan fan would have absolutely loved it, especially if he was paired with Harbaugh, right? That'd be so much fun.
In that
What do I
case,
think about
you're
what?
taking Fields' fifth year option, letting Fields get another chance, and picking up a quarterback in the second round. And I get it.
Yeah,
That is a plausible game plan.
but what Norcephus is referring to is, what do I think about J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings at this point? Well, far and done. Mr.
He's hurt.
McCarthy is very well missed at Michigan right now. The Michigan faithful have watched a 26-year-old man play quarterback for them recently in a college football game. So we're going through it. Michigan's offense lost 10 starters from their championship team, so that's almost impossible to overcome. But I'm seeing how good JJ McCarthy was when it mattered last year, every single day, more and more. If he can have that, and from a very tiny, small sample size in the preseason where he tore his knee, he had that nice touchdown to, I think it was Jefferson. I can't remember who it was. He can throw the ball, man. So if I'm the Vikings, I'm almost happy that Sam Darnold is regressing, because you don't want to stunt the growth of McCarthy. You could do this weird thing where you try and trade McCarthy, do this and that, keep Sam Darnold. I think if you're the Vikings, next year it's JJ McCarthy or nothing, unless he gets injured again.
See, that's interesting because I think if you're winning with Sam Darnold, I think you go with the guy that's winning, especially because Sam Darnold was a very high first round pick himself. And just like we're seeing with Baker Mayfield, like sometimes it takes a couple opportunities to get into the right situation with the right coaching. Sam Darnold, that 5 interception game was ugly. But like, let's not pretend Kirk Cousins didn't have those here either. I think Sam Darnold is very well equipped to do the job, and like, there's nothing wrong with sitting a quarterback for a couple of years and letting him learn. I mean, we've seen the Green Bay Packers do
Absolutely
it
not.
over and
There's no
over.
issues with
So
that.
like, I don't doubt that JJ McCarthy might be the future, but doesn't have to be next year, Karl.
You are right, but what the Vikings would tell you is that they want to use that rookie quarterback window because they have to. They're paying a lot of guys a lot of money, on the offensive, that is. I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. What game did Darnold have 5 interceptions? Do you remember which game it was?
Let me look it up real quick. I want to say it was the
Because
Jaguars.
what happened was, on Sunday Night Football against the Texans, Jared Goff, aka Jared Goof, is the one who threw 5 interceptions.
Oh, my bad. My
I
bad. You're
don't know
right.
if Darnold had a
Three.
five
He had
pick,
3 interceptions against the Jaguars with a 48.2 quarterback
and
rating. So
that
that's
could be
the ugly
worse.
game. It
That
could
that
be
could be
worse. You're
worse
right. My bad.
because the
I got
Texans
him
defense is
confused.
better.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair. That's fair. My bad.
Scottish Bear, we appreciate the ever living hell
And
out of
then
you,
I
man.
just want to address Bob Swede saying he's subscribed. Makes it all worth it, man. Like even just for one person to sit there and listen to us ramble,
Yeah,
totally worth it.
I can't explain how awesome it is to have Vikings fans or Cardinals fans, anyone who isn't a fan of the Bears in here right now. We appreciate having the outside perspective. So thank you guys very, very much for, again, all of your chat interactions. It's been fantastic tonight. Um, Polly, I kind of want to end this off just by asking you your thoughts on maybe what's going to happen with the Packers and the 49ers game. If there's another game you want to talk about or anything else NFL related, obviously let me know. But what's going to be happening tomorrow with the Packers and the 49ers? Brock Purdy and Joey Bosa, or I think it's Joey or Nick, I can't remember. One of the Bosa brother on the 49ers and Brock Purdy have been ruled out. And they're going to be playing at home, or sorry, on the road against the Packers. We saw the Packers essentially struggle against a bad Bears team. The Bears team should have beat them. But do you think that the Packers are just going to whip them, or do you think the 49ers have any sort of chance tomorrow?
Oh, I totally think the 49ers have a good chance tomorrow. Um, I'm not a big believer in Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is very average. He's not beyond making mistakes. Like even as we saw in the Bears game in the red zone, he threw a pick. Like, dude, you just keep that ball and run out of bounds and kick a field goal, and it's a whole different type of ball game, right? So the 49ers tend to keep things very clean. At the end of the day, Brock Purdy is Mr. Irrelevant playing quarterback over there. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to win, and that's going to make Brock Purdy's contract negotiations a lot more interesting during the offseason when it comes to what his true value is on this team. And it's either going to be a smack in the face reality check of, hey, I'm good, but this team is good too. Now Bosa is going to be the guy that really hurts him. I'm not taking anything away from Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy goes out there and gets the job done. But they don't have to lean on him very often. They just have to have him be consistent and not implode and not kill the team. And as long as he does that, man, they're rock and rolling. So, yeah, I think they still have a very good chance of going out there and beating the Packers because I don't think the Packers are really that good. I think it is the Lions and the Vikings that are the two dominant teams in this division. And even though the records have kind of played out early on in a very win heavy fashion for this division, over time things will fall into place. The Packers are the third best team in this division for reasons. And yeah, I can totally see them going out there and laying an egg and losing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a tough challenge for the 49ers without their starting quarterback, without their star edge rusher. The strongest argument that they have in a player who could quite literally take over the game for the 49ers, Mr. George Kittle's healthy and he's going to be playing this game. And he is a Bears fan. He fucking hates the Packers. So I'm glad that I have him on 2 fantasy leagues. He's going to kick some butt tomorrow. And I'm very hopeful that the Packers will lose because I agree with you. Their quarterback sucks. He's overpaid, and he's probably going to be a liability, hopefully, moving forward. Just like Favre. Favre is a great quarterback, but he was a gunslinger, turned over the ball. I don't even think Jordan Love's a gunslinger. I think he just turns the ball over because he sucks.
In today's
Apparently,
in today's age, Favre would be a liability. In
yeah,
the
I'd
era
have
that
to
he
say
played
so.
it was
Yeah,
still a very winnable way to play the quarterback position.
right, because that was very run centric. You had fourth reads
His
across the
ratio was
board,
one
more
for one,
linebackers.
as many
Yeah,
interceptions as touchdowns. And today, you can't get away with that. You just can't.
yeah. Cliff, you're absolutely right. Jordan Love, it's his 4th year. Technically, he's only a half season ahead of Caleb Williams at this point, but no, a full season. He had the full season last year, but whatever the case is, we don't want to spend too much time on the Packers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just one more comment, real quick.
Please.
The true stat there is the finances. It's not about how long you've been there and everything like that. It's how much are they paying you, and they're paying you a lot. So it means that you have a lot of responsibilities on your shoulder, and Love just is not going to own up to the value of the money that they sign up for. That's what it is.
Jordan Love, on an average annual basis, is tied to be the highest paid player in the NFL. 60 million a year, 55 million a year. It's disgusting money for bad quarterback play.
100%.
I love that. Every Joshua Dobbs has its day. Fantastic. Paulie, I'm running out of steam, man. I think I've
Me
covered
too, man.
everything that I want to. Is there anything you kind of want to put a cap on this? Any topics you want to talk about?
Yeah, dude, this has been really fun. Appreciate your time. Even though we just got together tonight and we're like, hey, let's do it. And you said you were going to do a show, and I just happened to hop on and whatnot. So spur of the moment type thing, definitely not planned, but we've had a ton of interaction from the chat, which is just awesome. Appreciate everybody that participates, everybody that listens. Karl, I love talking football with you, especially because we disagree a lot. And I love it. I love it back and forth, and I love a debate. And as long as you keep it respectful, which I think we both do, and yeah, that's what makes good football conversation. So, um, bear down, man. I appreciate you, and thank you.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I will disagree with you yet again, and actually say that I agree with you on a lot of stuff. I just like presenting the other side of the argument, the Eddie Jackson thing, whatever you have it. It's good talk regardless. It's fun to kind of think, both sides, weigh both options, see what there is, come to the best conclusion. Um,
What about
Absolutely.
my communist style idea of paying players a certain cap percentage of of the total cap that David mentioned? I
To
know you
that,
said
I
TJ
say
had that
we're gonna
idea, and
have
I
to
was like,
start
"Oh
watching a
man,
new NFL
I
league
threw
or
that out there. I threw
another
that out
football
there one
league. The
time."
NFL would
Like,
seek to exist.
and you know what? And it's only because Deshaun Watson got paid 25% of the Browns cap. And I'm just like that.
Bro, they
Like
deserve it.
when, yeah, but
They're
when
a
Jamarcus Russell,
joke.
went out there and got paid all this guaranteed rookie quarterback money and then choked, the league started saying we can't keep doing this. And I know it went in effect right after Sam Bradford, but they just came out with, hey, these are going to be the rookie quarterback contracts. I'm wondering now, like, this is such a bad mistake. Every owner in the league hated the Browns for going out there and signing Deshaun Watson to guaranteed money. It put, like, dude, the Ravens were in such a crappy situation with Lamar Jackson because Lamar's like, well, I want to get paid more than Deshaun, all guaranteed. If he got it, why can't I get? Dude, that's why all the owners hated it. And I'm just wondering if, because it's money and it affects the owners, I'm wondering if that truly gets kind of looked at and addressed at some point as like there being a cap to the amount of percentage of a total cap you could pay one player. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so many different arguments to it, and I don't feel strong enough to have a strong opinion and present an argument to you because I don't understand the salary cap. But my true opinion of the salary cap is that it's a myth. So you could do something to where the quarterback is on a special scale. He doesn't account for the salary cap. Whatever the case is, couldn't care less. End of the argument is that Jordan Love sucks.
Jordan Love that
Um,
sucks, and I hate communism. I'm not a commie by any means.
well, God bless you. I'd give you a high five if I could, but
I was
unfortunately, we're
born
talking
into
through
it
the
though,
screen right
so
now.
I was born into a communist country. I
Hey, if
was.
you're gonna listen to anyone, listen to Paul. He's got literal in real life experience on this type of stuff. Um, Again, just to drive home the point of the chats, really appreciate the ever living heck out of you guys. Again, this is being simulcasted on 3 channels: Bears Country Productions, Thy and Spy, and BearskiFilm. If you guys want to subscribe to any of those channels, if you are not already, please consider doing so. And yes, while today was a spur of the moment thing, myself, Karl, Vitality, I will try and continue to do these Saturday night shows before games. If the Bears are going to be playing a Thursday night game next week against the Lions, I don't know if I'll be doing a Saturday night show at that point. Maybe I will. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I do want to keep something consistent as far as like a Friday, Saturday night thing. And if you are a fan of myself and you aren't a fan of Bears Country Productions for whatever reason, you can find me on the Bears Country podcast every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, as Dan likes to say.
Oh
Mr.
yeah,
Mayhem,
and
glad that you pulled up. I got to put that on screen.
I appreciate you, Carl, for even joining my co-host David on our channel for just a Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. of just
And
general NFL talk, and I love it. I'm usually busy with the kid that day. It's my day to sit there and take care of the little one, but I was listening every second because I just love NFL talk.
I
It was
apologize,
awesome, man.
man,
No, don't
because
apologize for what.
I've only done the 1 week with Dave, right? I
Yeah, it
had
just
such a
started.
good time with Dave. I'm really hoping that Dave agreed that we had a good time
Oh
because
yeah,
I would like to continue to do those shows. We'll see how it shakes out in the schedule, but overall, it is nice to kind of. I'm looking at it through the Bears lens, and I'm never going to change that. But it's nice to just talk NFL, see what other things are going on, because it helps kind of figure out what you think that the Bears should do, right? Oh, the Bills, they let go of all this talent because they needed to due to the cap situation, but at their core, what are they? A great quarterback with a really good defense and a stellar offensive line when healthy. So the Bears, maybe they should follow that formula, whatever the case is. I'm glad the Bears have Caleb Williams because I think they got the quarterback right. What can you do with it? Time will
and
tell.
yeah, and Carl,
Go ahead.
just I'm not trying to drag this out, but just one more minute. I want you to put up Ant Mass and then clip Victoria's comments out there. Thigh and Smy every Saturday nights. And then I like the Saturday nights. Nobody else is doing them. You got a calling, man. The fans want you. They want you. And this is the time slot. They're
Yeah,
right. Nobody is doing Saturday nights. It's the day before
straight
Sunday.
up, straight up. Antmus said that he prefers the Saturday night content because no one else is doing it and he has withdrawals. Now, Aunt
Me
Miss, I know
too.
it's not a drug problem, but I appreciate the heck out of how much you enjoy the Bears. And if you're going to spend some time with me talking Bears, I cannot explain how much I appreciate it.
And how
And
many
that
times
goes
have
to
I
anyone, not just
messaged you
Aunt
being
Miss.
like, "You want to do a show, man? Come on, man. Let's do a show." I
Sometimes
get the itch, man.
with
I
your
do.
Twitter behavior, that kind of reminds me of you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man.
For all the old school people, I got these cheeseburgers, man. No, you get it? Yeah, you do. All right, let's do a show. Come on, man.
It's
I got these
7 o'clock
cheeseburgers.
on the dot. I need a crack rock.
Oh,
Okay,
hell
to
yeah,
that
man.
I should.
Appreciate you.
I'm gonna have to scrub out the little last bit of the stream for that. Um, Man, Mr. Cliff is asking Carl. I'm trying to win fantasy this week with a bye guy on the bench. 5 guys on the bye. Ethical or sketchy? Wait, I have no idea what you're saying, Cliff. I'm trying to win fantasy this week with a. Oh, your opponent is on the bye?
I don't know,
I can't
but
decipher your comment, Cliff.
ethical or sketchy, regardless of not even understanding the first part. Fuck ethical, man. Like you're trying to win. It's fantasy football. Go get that money.
And I would like that logic to apply to these guys right here. Doesn't have to be fantasy football. Let's just get some wins, man.
Yeah.
I have 5 guys on the bye. Have to have 1 bye guy starting.
Oh, so he's got one player missing because all his.
Bro,
And Cliff, you're expecting to lose this week. That's what you gambled on. So still,
hey,
if you pull off a win, good for you.
Sam Jones, first time viewer, great show, guys. Thanks, Sam. We really appreciate that. Again, simulcasting on 3 channels. All the links will be in the description. So if you're not subscribed to any of those channels, please feel free to consider that. And Various is saying, if Michigan wins Saturday, please do a show. Bro, is next week the game? I think next week is the game, man. Paulie, do you know what the game is?
I have no idea. Carl, I pay no attention to college football. None.
Michigan Wolverines versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. The team up. That's what they call them. I don't even know what they call them. I think Ohio State calls them the team up north. I'm trying to see if I can get their schedule up in front of me. That's gonna suck. They're gonna get wiped. It's in Columbus, I believe. They're gonna get wiped.
About talking about playing like or just ethical or whatever versus sketchy. One thing that I hate about the Packers, and I heard this said on a radio station, and it's totally true. They play the whole width of the field. If you're about to run out of bounds and you don't do it fast enough, you're going to get hit, and you're going to get hit hard on the sidelines. They don't care. Like I call it like almost like it's like this. It feels dirty, like this dirty way of playing football because, like the guy's going out. He's not out yet though. I'm gonna hit you, and they do that constantly. And I kind of wish my.
Who are you referring to?
I'm sorry. The Packers. They play the
bro.
full width of the field all the time, man. Like, and it's just something I've noticed with them consistently for sure. Where it's like I wish my team would. There's a tone to set about toughness, and you know what I mean, and hitting people. That sets that tone. And I don't care if you're going on or not. If you're still in, you're still in. I'm going to hit you as hard as I can. They do that constantly. So, yeah, it's not ethical by any means, though.
Yeah. As long as, like, let's say when you do that, the certain referee is going to say that it's dirty and they're going to throw a flag. You have to be able to coach your players to then take that out of them. But that sounds like risky business to me.
Yeah, the flag's only there if it's late. So, and they do get it sometimes. They do. They got one against us.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
All right, Carl. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you everyone in chat. We really appreciate it. Again, if Paulie ever wants to come on, I'm at the point where Paulie, if you ever want to come on the Saturday night, Friday night shows, please feel free. You are very much welcome. And thank you to everyone today who watched. We appreciate everything. And until next time, guys, bear down.